And I would just add, there needs to be accountability for that weaponization, Phil, that we've seen. And no one has been a victim of the weaponized government more than President Trump, not just because of this political scandal. You all recall his house was raided. So I think, it's very disingenuous for people to say, how dare they speak of former President Obama about this based on evidence and based on intelligence, when the former president of the United States, Donald Trump's home was raided, when he was forced to sit in a Manhattan courtroom and many other courtrooms across the country for crimes he never committed, when he was impeached and indicted, and the entire country witnessed that. That's the weaponization of justice. Now the president is back because the American people see the truth. Nearly 80 million Americans reelected him back to this office, and he believes that we need to have justice and accountability. And I think the nearly 80 million Americans who reelected him agree with that. Caitlin.
Thank you, Caroline. Two questions for Director Gabbard. Just on this, Director Gabbard, you referenced the past intelligence reports and assessments on this, including that 2017 one that was signed off, as Ed noted, by every Republican on the Senate Intelligence Community, including the acting chair of the time, now Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who said in a statement that they did not find any evidence of Russian collusion, but they did find, however, is very troubling, and they found irrefutable evidence of Russian meddling. One, are you saying that he's wrong in that statement that he made then? And secondly, what would you say to people who believe that you're only releasing these documents now to improve your standing with the president after he said that your intelligence assessments were wrong?
Well, first, I want to correct something that you stated, which was citing the Senate Intelligence Committee's report as being one and the same. I think you said the intelligence community. The Senate Intelligence Committee has a very different function than the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. The evidence and the intelligence that has been declassified and released is irrefutable. I'm going to let Caroline speak to Secretary Rubio.
I'll speak to both questions. First, on Secretary Rubio, he put out a statement in 2020 following that Senate Intelligence Committee report, and he said what they found is troubling. We found irrefutable evidence of Russian meddling, which the Director of National Intelligence just confirmed for all of you, that Russia was trying to sow distrust and chaos. But what's the outrage in this that Secretary Rubio did not say at the time, the Democrats were saying at the time, is the fact that the intelligence community was concocting this narrative that the president colluded with the Russians, that the president's son was holding secret meetings with the Russians, all of these lies that were never true. And he also said at that time, we discovered deeply troubling actions taken by the FBI under Comey, particularly their acceptance and willingness to rely on the Steele dossier without verifying its methodology or sourcing. The Steele dossier that many outlets in this room ran as the gospel truth, and it was cooked up and paid for by the Clinton campaign. As for your second question, Caitlin, I think, who is saying that she would release this to try to boost her standing with the president? Who has said that?
Well, the president has publicly undermined her when it came to Iran. He said she was wrong. He told me that she didn't know what she was talking about. That was on Air Force One on camera.
The only people who are suggesting that the Director of National Intelligence would release evidence to try to boost her standing with the president are the people in this room who constantly try to sow distrust and chaos amongst the president's cabinet, and it is not working. I will just answer your question directly. I am with the President of the United States every day. He has the utmost confidence in Director Gabbard. He always has. He continues to, and that is true of his entire cabinet, who is all working as one team to deliver on the promises this president made. Does anyone else have questions for Director Gabbard? And then we'll turn it over to a couple other questions. Christian, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Director Gabbard. Two follow-ups on questions that have been asked. You mentioned the previous DNIs during the president's first term. One of them reports to you right now, if I'm not mistaken, John Ratcliffe. So have you not spoken to him about why this information was not declassified during the first term?
He was in that position for a very short period of time. The work that began back then, we have picked up and absolutely completed. We are continuing to investigate this. Additional whistleblowers are now coming forward because they see an opportunity for the truth to come to light. And as Caroline said, for real accountability to be brought forward. The accountability is the essential part of this. We can show the truth, reveal the truth. The accountability needs to occur to be able to start to restore that trust in the integrity of our democracy.
And then just quickly, I know you said you would leave the charging to DOJ. But the statute of limitations on conspiracy is 5 years. So what else could they possibly pursue besides treason?
I think that's a great question for Attorney General Pam Bondi. We're providing all of the evidence, all of the intelligence that we have, both redacted and unredacted versions, referring it to the Department of Justice and the FBI.
We'll take one more. Charlie, go ahead.
How credible was the information about Hillary Clinton's power from the report said that it was from sourced from the DNC? Have you seen that information, or do you think that maybe Russia was overemphasizing what they had?
All I have seen is what the Intelligence Committee have reported through their investigation. I think that the underlying point there is that we understand from intelligence what Russia said that they had. And the important point here is that if they were trying to influence the election, as President Obama and James Clapper and John Brennan, everybody said they were doing in order to support Donald Trump's election, they would have released the most damning of that information, some of which I detailed here. You'll find the rest in the report, prior to the election to help Donald Trump win. They specifically withheld what they had on her, the most damning information, because they thought that she would win the election. They had plans to release it just prior to her inauguration to, again, sow discord and chaos in America.
And if I may, on Jeffrey Epstein, can you rule out that he was connected in some way to any kind of intelligence, either foreign or domestic?
I haven't seen any evidence or information that reflects that. If anything comes before me that changes that in any way, support the president's statement loud and clear. If any credible evidence comes forward, he wants the American people to see it.
Great. Director Gabbard, we thank you for your time today. I know you're a busy woman, so we'll let you get out of here, but thank you so much. Okay. I know there's many issues going on today across the world and here at home. If you have any other further questions, I'm happy to take them. Ed, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, thank you, Caroline. So the Japan trade deal, is that Japan trade deal the start of this number of trade deals that the Treasury Secretary says we're going to see by August 1st?
I think it is. I mean, as you said, we had Japan yesterday. We also had Indonesia, and we had the Philippines as well. The president announcing all three. He came in as the closer in all three of those. I've said many times from this podium that the president's trade team has been in active talks and discussions with many countries around the world, and you've all been anxiously awaiting what those countries were. Now you know three of them, and there's many, many more to go. We have now sent 25 letters to countries around the world. But just to reiterate this Japan deal, for those at home who may have missed it, Japan will now pay a 15% tariff versus the reciprocal rate of 24% that they initially had. Auto and auto parts tariffs have been reduced to 15%, but the centerpiece of this deal now is the president got Japan to commit to $550 billion in investments to revitalize American industries. And these funds will be spent at President Trump's discretion and direction into key industries such as energy, semiconductors, critical minerals, pharmaceuticals, and shipbuilding. And the U.S. will retain 90% of the profits from any investments made by this $550 billion fund. This was originally a $400 billion investment that President Trump then negotiated to an increase of $150 billion, making it a $550 billion deal for the American people. And I just want to emphasize, Ed, I see you have a follow-up, but it's very important. Japan has agreed to open their markets to many very key sectors in American-made products that have really faced very strict tariff and non-tariff barriers prior. So thanks to the president, Japan's markets will now be open to American-made products and goods. This is big news for our tech companies and our farmers as well.
On Monday, the Treasury Secretary is going to Stockholm to talk to the Chinese delegation. What does the president hope to get out of that meeting? Are there deliverables?
I won't speak to any deliverables or set expectations. I'll let the Secretary of Treasury do that. But I did speak to him yesterday about his upcoming trip, and he looks forward to continuing discussions with his Chinese counterparts. The president has ensured that we have a good continuing working relationship with China that benefits the United States. And so the Secretary of Treasury will be obviously discussing those key matters, but I'll let him set the expectations.
One more, if I may.
Sure.
Given what the DNI just said and laid out, does President Trump believe that President Obama should go to jail for something?
Look, the president believes that this matter needs to be thoroughly investigated, and anyone convicted of crime should be held accountable in this country. Go ahead.
Special Envoy Wickoff is headed overseas again.
Good to see you, Olivia. I haven't seen you since the campaign trail.
It's good to see you. He's headed back overseas. Can you give us a sense of what the marching orders are to some of the people he'll be meeting with, and specifically as it relates to Gaza and ongoing talks there?
Yes, Special Envoy Wickoff is headed to Europe, where he will meet with key leaders from the Middle East to discuss the ongoing ceasefire proposal to end this conflict in Gaza and to release the hostages. These are very sensitive negotiations that are currently taking place. I spoke to Special Envoy Wickoff last night about them. I will let him speak further on the matter, but the President and Special Envoy Wickoff has made the administration's goals clear. We want this ceasefire to happen as soon as possible, and we want these hostages to be released. Go ahead.
A Florida federal judge refused to allow the Epstein grand jury materials to be released. Does the president want the administration or Department of Justice to appeal that ruling?
That was just breaking as the director and I were coming out here, so I haven't had a chance to talk to the president about it. I understand there are two other requests from the Department of Justice that are ongoing, but I'll let this president speak to whether he wants to see an appeal. And the Department of Justice, I'm sure, can give you a statement on that as well.
And is he supportive of the effort to talk to Ghislaine Maxwell? I know that Todd Blanchard mentioned that earlier this week.
The president spoke to this yesterday, and he said he thinks it's an appropriate idea. Kelly.
What is the accountability that you would like to see if the current president is the one who brought the case to the Supreme Court and Chief Justice Roberts made clear in his opinion that a sitting president's responsibilities in office cannot lead to prosecution, immunity? So what is it the President Trump wants regarding President Obama, given that fact? And the special counsel at the time, Durham, when that Supreme Court matter was not in effect, could have charged anyone and did not. So on those 2 points, how do you respond?
Look, the president has made it clear that he wanted these documents to be declassified. He wanted the American people to see the truth, and now he wants those who perpetuated these lies and this scandal to be held accountable. As for what accountability looks like, as the director said, it's in the Department of Justice's hands, and we trust them to move this ball forward.
But you would agree
Stephanie.
President Obama cannot be charged based on that immunity?
Again, I'll leave that to the Department of Justice. Stephanie.
In light of the Japan deal, are sectoral tariffs now up for negotiation with trading partners? And in a similar note, are these negotiators asking for investment funds, sort of like what Japan had agreed to?
As for sectoral tariffs, I understand that the president continues to be in talks with our Secretary of Commerce. We have made commitments on various sectoral tariffs, as you know. The Department of Commerce has initiated studies to then move forward with implementing those sectoral tariffs, so I would defer you to them for further comment. Meredith.
I wanted to ask if the White House has any update on the Commerce Department employee who's been detained or banned from exiting China, and if there are any efforts to get him out.
I can assure you and the American people that the administration is actively monitoring the situation and engaged, but typically we don't comment on individual cases like this as we are sorting them out. Sure.
Yes.
Behind you, Dr. Harper, sorry. Go ahead, to the lady sitting down in the blue. Yes.
Thanks,
What's your name?
Caroline.
What's your name?
My name is Caroline also. Caroline Bodo with the Center Square.
Great.
So Republicans in the Senate today said that they are pulling back on legislation to impose sanctions on Russia after the president said he wants to act unilaterally. Can you elaborate on what the president intends to do?
Look, the president has been in very close communication with his friends in the Senate, particularly Senator Lindsey Graham, on this issue. But the president has always maintained, he's the commander-in-chief and the president for a reason, and he has been deeply involved in this conflict since the beginning. And so any decisions that are made with respect to sanctions, the president wants to reserve that authority and that right to himself. Jasmine.
Thanks, Caroline. Two questions for you. The first on AI. Does President Trump support federal agencies contracting with Elon Musk's AI company?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, so he would want the DOJ to then cancel the contract with Musk.
I'll talk to him about it, yes.
And my second question, just, obviously the development of the Epstein case with the judge, but I wonder, has the White House counsel, the DOJ, explored any other documents that could be released to the public that don't have to do with that grand jury testimony?
To my knowledge, the Department of Justice has moved forward with the request to unseal that grand jury testimony, and as you know, they have also moved forward with interviewing Ms. Maxwell, which I believe will be taking place very soon. Go ahead. Sure.
Thanks, Caroline. I have a question about Paul Ingrassia, the OSC nominee who faces a Senate committee hearing tomorrow. Tom Tillis said that he wouldn't vote for Ingrassia if a vote came to the Senate floor. 2 worker advocacy groups have said that they don't support his nomination. What is the White House planning to do to sort of turn the tide or convince legislators that they should vote for him?
The White House is always in communication with members of both the Senate and the House, and we stand by the president's nominees. Sure.
In connection with the Mueller investigation, a grand jury indicted 13 Russians. President Putin has said he will never extradite those men. Given the new information that Ms. Gabbard has found, what's the administration's position on that case? Should those charges be dropped?
I don't have an update for you on that case, but I'll check in with the National Security Council, and our team will get you something. Sure.
Thank you so much. So Fani Willis and Jack Smith separately, they both charged President Trump with conspiracy to defraud the United States and a conspiracy to overturn the 2020 election. And now it turns out we're confirming that Obama and his cronies were doing that the whole time in 2016 on a massive scale, falsifying documents and having their intel agencies do this. What does this say about the 2020 election? And also, what's your thoughts on the irony here?
There is a lot of irony, especially for the party of the Democrat Party, who claims to be for democracy. We often heard throughout the 2024 campaign they were calling this president a threat to democracy. And now I think the declassification of all of these documents proves that they were indeed the true threat to democracy. And as I said repeatedly today, there needs to be justice and accountability for that. You all will hear directly from the president later this afternoon at the AI Summit here in Washington, D.C., scheduled to speak later in a few hours. So we will see you all there. Thank you very much.